Okay, so this week's course is, let's see what it says here, Diamond Ridge. Diamond Ridge in Windsor Mill, Maryland. Actually, this is a companion course to Woodlands, the Woodlands, which is at the same general location. Diamond Ridge is the easier of the two courses. It is a slope 125 course from the back tees, and it is 66.13 from the blue tees. Slope 125, rating 71.5. Now, this is a course that I played today because it was more convenient than going down into Baltimore, and I didn't feel like driving all the way out into Virginia Beach or Ocean City or anything like that to play another course. As you all know, I have basically played most, if not all, not quite all, of the courses within, I'd say, a short drive of the DC downtown metro area. But to be fair, there are some courses that I have not played and probably will not play because they are 9-hole courses, and I generally don't like to play 9-hole courses and review them because I think that it is kind of obvious if it is a 9-hole course that comparing it to an 18-hole course is not fair. You obviously get more of a value for your money if you're playing 18 holes. I personally feel like if you play 9 holes, you're just basically getting warmed up by the time you play the 9th hole. So that means you're either going to have to spend a lot of time on the driving range if they have one, warming up just to play decently, or you're just going to warm up through the 9 holes and call it a day, and that makes sense for you if you're short on time and you're not really concerned that much about your game. You just want to go out and hit balls for a while. But to be honest, I played with 2 other guys, and it was a great example of the difference between 9 holes and 18 holes. I'll get to that in a minute. Now, the other thing is, I didn't think that this course was going to be all that impressive because the course next to it, Woodlands, is an interesting course, but it is somewhat of a challenge in certain ways, which I didn't think Diamond Ridge would be, and I was right about that. But also, Woodlands has some weaknesses that I thought Diamond Ridge would also have, and I was surprised that it really didn't have those weaknesses. Diamond Ridge is a much more balanced course than Woodlands, and it's not as tight for the first 9, and it's not as, let's just say, bland in a sense for the second 9 as Woodlands is. Diamond Ridge is a much more consistent course. It's a very decent course overall. It's a fairways and greens, lanes, wood course, trees on the side, things like that, but it is very good at that in terms of the course, and it is actually quite a decent course, very consistent, moderately imaginative, with a decent amount of challenge in terms of its crescent shots and dog legs and with verticality and so forth. It's a decent enough course that I would say it really stands on its own. Almost dramatically different than Woodlands, and if you're going to play a modest course that's still challenging, of the 2 courses, Diamond Ridge is a course to play. Woodlands is certainly a much more challenging course on the front 9 and also in some of the holes in the back 9, and it only allows you a few moments of respite in some of the par 3s on the course, which are fairly mundane. From the back tees, none of the par 3s on Diamond Ridge are as short as the par 3s on Woodlands from the back tees. They're more like 150, 160, maybe 170 on Woodlands, but on Diamond Ridge, they're all at least 185, 200, usually 200. There's a hole over a lake that is 185 over the water, and I think that's the 9th or 10th. The 10th on Diamond Ridge. That is certainly a good challenge of golf in terms of the shot. You've got the water that runs on the front and runs off to the right side, so it's very easy to get into the marsh on the right side of the green. It's a large green, but it tends to favor shots to the left. But at the very edge of the green, you've got the cart path in the woods, so it's easy if you miss it left to go into waste or in the woods and lose your ball. It's only safe if you hit long, and a long is about 230 from the back tees. So I shot a 46, I believe. I didn't keep score here. 46 on the front side. And on the front side, there was a guy playing with us who was only playing 9, and he wasn't that good of a player, but he was, let's say, dedicated to the task at hand. He wanted to play. He didn't want to skip shots. He wanted to hit. As a matter of fact, he even went to the back tees and hit with us in a couple of shots and hit some decent shots. But he did have a lot of holes in this game, and we did end up having some trouble staying ahead of a group behind us, which was a threesome behind us. So I helped him, coached him through the front side, and it actually annoyed the third guy we were playing with, who was like, this guy can't play, he sucks, he just, I wish we could just drop him and move on. But I've been in that situation before where you're struggling to play golf, you're not necessarily hitting the shots you want, and you're rushing on top of it, which does make it even harder, to hit your shots. You're trying to chip and stuff, and you're chipping under pressure. And so I kind of wanted to give him a break, and plus, as long as we stayed ahead of the group behind us, that was fine. The group ahead of us wasn't all that great anyway, so we were having to wait for them. And we would never get in a position to pass them. But let's put it this way. The group ahead of us was a foursome, and they had at least one guy there who really wasn't any good. He was constantly hitting in the woods off the tees. We had a threesome. We had a guy who wasn't really good, who was hitting in the woods off the tees and hitting approach shots way short and stuff like that, and just making a mess of things. But the guys behind us were fairly decent. There were 3 guys, and they were all fairly decent golfers, decent enough golfers. But we established a certain routine through the front side, and then when the back side came, the guy that we were playing with who was holding us back was, he left, and then the guys ahead of us, we were waiting for them at the tee. They were waiting for a foursome on the green, and then so forth and so on. And then finally, the weirdest thing about it was the guys behind us came up behind us while we were waiting for the guys in front of us who were a foursome, and now we were 2. And then the, I guess the course manager or whatever it is came rolling back towards us and said, "Oh, there's no place for you guys to go. There's foursomes ahead of us everywhere. The course is packed. There's nowhere for you to go." And this brings up an old bugaboo that I have. Number 1, if you're playing a foursome and the guys behind you are a 3 or 2, let them pass. Don't argue with it. Don't fight it. Don't tell them there's no place for them to go. Don't try to regulate the situation. Just let them pass you. Okay? Now, there's a number of reasons for this. Number 1, it eliminates any strife. Number 2, that's what you should do. Number 3, you should not be trying to regulate groups behind you, which have the right to pass you because there are fewer players in their group. Don't try to regulate them or tell them they shouldn't go past. Just stand aside and let them pass. Now, and this is a problem that I have with golf. Honestly, when people who barely know how to play or don't really know how to play well, and certainly are not bordering on being an asshole, okay, when they're full assholes, okay, you get into these kind of arguments, and it's almost always, my policy. I'll make my point, I'll make my case, and then I'll just say, okay, fine. We'll stand back. And so we're playing on the backside of this course, and it's not an easy course on the backside. It's just as hard as it is on the front side. And I will say this, the only real fault that I have with this course is that the fairways were, I don't know if they tried to aerate them or what, but a lot of the space in the fairways was dirt, and it looked like it had been sliced up or cut up, like it had been overcut or something, and then it had gotten wet, and then it had rotted, and so there were large sections of the fairway which were not really in good shape, but there were large sections that were in good shape, and there were definitely some good shots out there to be had in this course. But the thing is, if you're sitting there waiting for the guy ahead of you, or the group ahead of you, it really can ice you. And it does, you're warm, you're hot, you're in the swing of things, everything's great. Then you're sitting there for 5 minutes waiting. That really does, in my opinion, it really does affect your game. Because all of a sudden now you have to just leap out on the course and take your shot. And now if you double up by over talking or just waiting too long for the group ahead of you to go, say you're trying to hit an approach shot on a 470-yard par 4, Okay, I just use this as an example. And you hit out to, 250 or something. And so now you're in reach of the green, but it's going to take a good shot. And you're sitting there, and they're goofing around in the fairway, and they're goofing in the green, and there's a cart lady coming through with the beer and stuff like that. And everyone's just kind of, waiting and waiting and waiting. You're waiting for the guys on the green, and the guys on the tee box behind you, they're now waiting for you to get out there. Okay, so this happened to us quite a few times, and you're sitting and you're cooling down, and then you got to leap out suddenly and hit a shot. Half the time you're going to duff that shot. Half the time you're not going to hit a good shot because you're not as warm and as loose as you were 5 minutes ago when you walked up to your ball and saw them sitting out there. And this is one of the reasons why I hate playing crowded courses where I have to wait half the time. It's the other reason why I hate waiting for a foursome that I'm playing a single or a twosome and they won't let us go by, or they give us shit about passing them. This is one of my top 3 frustrating things about playing golf, is trying to pass people who can't play, who can't keep pace, who don't want to let you pass. It's like sometimes I'm just like, fuck it, we're going to pass you. Okay, or I'm going to pass you. I will literally skip a green and just pass them and leave them sitting there stewing. They'll stew about it, but they can't keep up with me, and I'll just go on and move on. They were holding us back, and we were holding the guys behind us back. And that had more ramifications later on. So the guy I'm playing with is getting frustrated because he's having to wait, and then when he hits, he's missing shots, he's missing approaches, he's missing, shots on par threes, things like that. So I'm having to kind of keep him cool and things like that. And, we're both missing shots here. I'm missing drives, he's missing approaches, things like that. So, in the end, we were happy to play the course. It was a good round and all, but we were glad to be done. He had an appointment to go to, and I had I was just tired. I was just worn out. I just wanted to sit down and have a beer so badly. So we get on the 18th green, we play out, and we shake hands, and we're walking off the green, and some asshole in the group behind us shells us while we're walking off the green. Okay? To top it off, he's too impatient, hitting from 100 yards out, downhill to the green on the 18th, too impatient to wait until we got in our carts and drove away. He couldn't wait until we got even past the sand trap. And we're sitting, and I'm sitting there, we're walking off the green, and I hear this ball go, and I didn't even look. I knew what was going on. And the guy next to me goes, "What was that? What's going on?" And I said, "Yeah, they're hitting on us." I knew what was going on. I said, I didn't even, turn around and look. I said, they're hitting on us. And I was like, if I wasn't so tired, I'd go back there and fight this guy, kick this guy's ass, or, some shit like I said, I'd go back there and get in a fight with him. If I wasn't so tired, I'd go back there and fight with him. Well, by the time I had gotten in my cart, drove him to his car, got him out of the car, came back to the clubhouse, and I parked next to the deck where the place is where you get drinks. I can't remember the little dining area. Lo and behold, they're sitting on the green. And I'm like, I have to say something to these guys. And there's a chance that you might hit somebody because your ball is heading toward them. The least you could do is yell "4." Okay, that was the first thing. Number 1, they didn't say shit. Number 2, they didn't apologize. They just acted like it was nothing. Okay. Then he's like, well, and I couldn't really hear what he was saying, but he's like trying to make some kind of excuse for it. Okay. And then I said to him, look, there's no excuse for hitting on a green while people are standing right next to it. There is no excuse for it. Don't even try to argue with that. Okay, so what I'm saying is, and I'm not trying to make this about my personal story, but what I'm saying is that course actually gets busy enough where people don't play it. They won't play that course. And I talked to a couple other guys afterwards, okay, where they said, I don't like to play this course because it just gets too busy. It's busy all day long, and then you've got kids coming out and stuff in the afternoons. There's always somebody playing it right up until 7 o'clock at night. There's always somebody in this course. It's just too busy. And I said, something, I can kind of agree with you, but it's not just that it's busy. It's that some of these guys are just assholes that are arrogant assholes on the course. It can totally fuck you around, okay? And this is what happened with these guys. I'm saying this, and I'm saying this is one of the reasons why I'm going to give it the rating that I'm going to give it, okay? Yeah, courses get busy. Yes, there can be foursomes on the course. Yes, you might say, oh, there's no spot for them to go to on the 9th hole or the 10th hole. But over the course of the whole backside, it's going to spread out. And a slow player and a slow team, slow group will always hold up everyone behind them. That's why you let smaller groups go through the larger groups so that they don't hold up the faster group. Okay? And even then, if the group with more players is being held up by a group with fewer players, they have the right to say, hey, can you let us go through? Do you mind letting us go through? You let the slower players trickle backwards and you let the faster players trickle forwards. You never say you can't go forward. You can't move. Never. Okay? Because you end up with a static situation where 4 or 5 groups are just pissed off for 9 holes, sometimes for 18 holes even, depending on whether things come out of the clubhouse, okay? If one group goes to the clubhouse and the other group does not, then you end up with a group that doesn't go to the clubhouse right up under the group that did go to the clubhouse on the turn. It is one of the biggest sources of strife on a golf course if the course management doesn't properly let groups filter through. If someone's sitting on the tee watching you hit off the tee box and they're just sitting there and now they've got to sit and watch you play the hole, let them pass at the next hole, okay? There's nothing illegal. It's not a moral crime. It's not some kind of venial sin. Let them pass. Now you have to wait for them for a hole, maybe 2, but by the 3rd hole, they're gone. That's how it works, okay? If there's a group ahead of them holding them up, the same thing. Never say you can't let somebody pass because there are groups. Of course there are groups ahead of them. It's a golf course. Of course there are going to be foursomes ahead of them. That's life. You don't say they can't pass because there's somebody ahead of them. So you can hear from, I think, from the point that I'm making here, that I was really upset by the fact that, they wouldn't let us pass these guys. Okay. Now, we didn't argue with them. We didn't make a scene. We didn't cause strife. We just said, okay. And sure enough, what I predicted would happen, the whole backside happened. To think that it made sense in any way to shell us. In any way. No one who knows how to play golf, who has any sense, would ever hit up on somebody walking off the green. It's just bullshit. Nobody wants to hear balls whistling past them while they're walking. And the third thing, sure enough, the guys hit where we were going, not where the green was. They hit to the left of us, okay? At least one guy hit to the left of us while we're walking off the green. And sure enough, we're walking into his shot because it was that bad. It is the height of arrogant bullshit to hit a golf ball up on a green while there are people sitting there or walking or playing or whatever. Utter bullshit. And I was mad as shit. Okay, I was mad. I literally, if I wasn't so dog-tired, exhausted, and dehydrated, I would have gone back there and fronted these guys on the green. If I did walk out to go out there, we would probably have some clubs moving, and things would just get out of control. And it doesn't take a lot of them, just 1 or 2, okay? Because then the first thing they're going to do is blame you for it. The first thing I'm going to say is, oh, we were just playing and things were kind of under control. And then this guy came raging, off the cart path with a club in his hand, ready to fucking swing us. And it's like, they're not going to make it your problem, your fault. Okay. That's the problem I have with golf. And I have to admit, I played this course. I liked the course. I thought it was a decent course. I thought it certainly was a respectable course. But when I was walking in the parking lot and I had, taken a shower and I was driving my car out of the parking lot, I was thinking about putting my clubs up for the year. I'll be honest. Not the first time. Not the first time. The second or third time in a row that I've had that feeling. And part of it was playing in Baltimore 2 times in a row. Or playing near Baltimore. Playing with these wealthy, want to be blue blood, but they're still from Baltimore assholes. And you just meet enough of them, just enough to ruin it, to ruin the whole experience. And it's almost like they're assholes on purpose. It's really aggravating. But hey, it's their city, their course. I'm coming from DC to play in Baltimore, and fine. If you are enough of an asshole to make sure nobody plays around with you, it's almost like it's some kind of social engine to be a dick and make people not want to deal with you, not come anywhere near you. You know, if that's how you want to go through life, fine. If that's what you want to be, okay? If you want to be an arrogant asshole, you want to be a prick, you want to be a douchebag, you know, that's the benefit of it. People don't deal with you, and they let you go on about your way. They just want you away from them, okay? They don't want anything to do with you, and so you create this sort of island of you around yourself, okay? You know, that's one of the things I'm going to factor into my rating, okay? The good thing about playing Woodlands is that most people avoided it. The course was almost empty when I played it. The bad thing about playing Diamond Ridge is it was full. Now you can argue that it's so full that there's, you know, it doesn't make sense to let people pass. I say a course is never so full because not letting people pass is what keeps it full. If you let people pass, the good players will finish and the bad players will still be out there plodding along, taking their time, but they won't be holding up half the course. Okay? So it does not make sense to not let people pass because you think the course is full. It is going to be full because you're letting all the slow people hold up the good players. Of course it's going to be full. Okay? It's going to be chock full of angry people seething, just grinding their teeth because they can't play past these idiots who are holding them up. That's how it is. Okay? Now in Virginia, there's some courses where it's chock full of players and people don't pass. You have the same thing, and you get up with getting these 6 hour 18-hole rounds in the heat and stuff like that, where everyone, half the people are polite and they don't want to pass. They don't try to pass. They don't want to pass, and they'll sit there and they'll let slow players hold them up because that's how they play. They're too polite to even try to pass. Okay, they'll politely wait and sit there and wait for people to play ahead of them. It's a major factor in a course when you're trying to play. What pace do you play? Is the course management helping players move along? Or are they hindering players from moving along? Okay. Second, what condition is the course in general? Is it well maintained, sufficiently maintained, or sort of let go and they have ivy and tall grass and waste under the trees versus clearing all that stuff out from under the trees, things like that? Are the fairways in decent condition, or are they overwatered? Are they overgrown with crabgrass because they haven't put down any fertilizer or crabgrass stuff, whatever you call that stuff, weed killer, or do they just let the course flood out, and then come back in 2 or 3 days and put up stakes around the spots where it's been flooded out and the fairway, is too damaged really for them to even let carts go over it because it would just be chewed up. That's what this course was. It was more of the latter case where they were barely in control of the course. Barely. Sand traps are in decent shape, absolutely. And one of the things I want to point out about this course is that the sand traps, often you can't see them, and you really need to look at the course maps, the little diagrams they have at the beginning of each hole, because you need to know where the traps are behind the green. And I got caught in that a few times where I didn't really take note of that. Like there's a par 3, you're playing uphill, and you can go over the lip and think that you're safe up on top of the lip and on top of the green, but there's a sand trap right there between like the right edge of the green and the lip. You can't see it. It's a nice big deep sand trap. There's another sand trap on the left, but if you don't know those traps are there, you'll never see them from the fairway. You'll never even think about them, and you'll just hit up and go, oh. And that happened on 4 or 5 holes, I think, where we came up on the green and, oh, there's a sand trap behind the green. Oh, there's a sand trap to the right of the green. Oh, we didn't know that there was a drop off to the left and to the waist and to the woods, things like that. You know, there's enough peril on this course where even though it doesn't have waste, let's say, right behind the green and it's got nice big areas around the greens where there's lots of grass and lots of sand and lots in a big green. It's not that tight to push it into 130s, 140s, okay? But there is enough sand to keep it in the 120s, in the high 120s and low 130s. And I think this course is a very good challenge of a course. It's definitely a solid challenge of golf. There's no question. It's long enough, especially from the back tees. It is got enough verticality and it's tight enough, and it's got enough twists and stuff in the run of the holes to be a good solid challenge. But you definitely are going to hit sand traps near the green that you cannot see from the fairways. Okay, in that case, there's a lot of it, and it's also sometimes the green itself will cut back in towards the front of the fairway, and you don't see that until you're on the green. And if you hit a shot at the narrow part, it'll run, say, off to into the rough behind the green, and now, in some cases you'll have to chip across, which is crazy, chipping across the rough on the back of the green to get back on the green to a narrow part of the green where there's, a tight patch where they put the pin. This course does not have to be 135, 140 to be tough. It's tough enough as it is, okay? I'm not saying that it is too tough to play, but it's definitely not a walk in the park. It's not an easy course. And it's certainly not an easy course for people who cannot really play. This is not the kind of course you want to play sitting there waiting for people who can't hit decent drives, who can't hit decent irons, who really are overmatched, even from the forward tees, sitting there watching them trying to struggle and play this course. This is not that course. This is a course where you're going to have a fair amount of players who are good players, who can handle the course reasonably well, who are going to be very frustrated sitting there watching people who can't play, but who want to play and can't handle the course. They just cannot handle it. It's not an easy course. This is a course you're going to find yourself often sitting and waiting and watching. Often. Because there are a lot of people who choose to play this course as opposed to the Woodlands. Because this course is supposed to be easier than the Woodlands, when really this course is not easier than the Woodlands. It's just easier to fathom, let's put it that way, than the Woodlands, because it doesn't have that left to right slope in some of those. You don't have that high waist on the right side of the fairway like you do on the Woodlands in some holes. There's no question that some holes in the Woodlands are harder than some holes on Diamond Ridge. But overall, I would not say that Diamond Ridge is an easier course. It is a much more solid and consistent course, so you don't get these places where it's too easy that you get on Woodlands. Okay, there are holes on Woodlands that are harder than the holes on Diamond Ridge, but the variation is much higher, so you don't get those breathers that you get when you're on Woodlands. When you play Diamond Ridge, every hole is tough. There's no question. Every hole is consistently tough. Okay. So it shares the same clubhouse as Woodlands, and the clubhouse is actually pretty decent clubhouse. It's really nice inside, not ostentatious with a big dining, wood floors and lofted ceilings. It's a decent, decent dining area, sort of like Falls Road, same kind of place, but bigger, more light, things like that. Not out of the modern style, like it's modern, but not ostentatious. Okay. It's decent, but not overdone. Let's put it that way. So if there was anything about the course I didn't like, or about the amenities that I didn't like, it is hard to really find anything except for the fact that, as a matter of fact, I can't really, the roads there's a road that leads to the clubhouse that passes between two adjacent fairways, one on Woodlands and one on Diamond Ridge. So you're playing that first fairway. The first shot on Diamond Ridge is just a downhill straight par 4, but there is a road with OB on the right side. And from the tee box, it's not, out of sight, out of mind. It's right there. So when people come driving up that road to get to the course, they can go fast or they can go slow, or it can be one car, it can be two car, whatever, but they're right there. And it's certainly a concern. We were on the green on the first hole, and the turnoff from, I guess it's Dogwood Rd, that's the main road down from Owings Mills, and it turns onto the road that goes to the clubhouse. The turn is right there, so there's cars making that turn, and one of them was nice enough to honk their horn when one of our players was up there into the road, the player who couldn't really play. And he passes by, and he honks his horn. I don't know why. The guy's on the course side of the divider, and the other guy who's honking his horn is on the road side of the divider. Why do you need to honk your horn at a player on, on the green, on the grass? Why? Well, and I will tell you why. Okay, when I came up on there myself, there was a guy on the Woodland side of the course. That hole is also the first hole, and he was walking across the road to get his ball either from the Diamond Ridge side, or he was walking back to his cart from the Woodland side. And it's very possible that someone could have played their ball across the road to the other fairway and then gone over and gotten it, or tried to play it back and then, walked back across the road. So and as a matter of fact, there were all kinds of carts rolling around at that point and people walking across the fairway at that point. So it's very possible that the guy in the car may have thought that the guy playing with me was going to walk across the road to play. I don't know. Who knows? In any case, he honked his horn for what seemed to me to be no reason. And I thought, it was pretty annoying. But luckily, I wasn't the guy standing there who was playing that shot. But you do have to be careful of that road, okay? Now, there pretty much are no other roads and no houses on Diamond Ridge until you get to about the 15th hole, at which point you'll pass a few apartment-style buildings, and there's also a road, like a normal neighborhood road, because it does, I guess, go behind the backside of a neighborhood, and there's some car traffic. And on 17, par 3, there's a fence there, and there's a row of houses behind it, or a road right behind that. So except for those 3 spots, there's almost no outside interference from cars or road noise or houses or anything like that, which is nice. It's actually fairly decent. The 18th fairway passes past the driving range behind a set of trees, so you do hear a lot of noise from the driving range while you're trying to hit your approach shots and so forth and so on. But again, it is a straight downhill shot from about the 200-yard mark down to the fairway, down to the green. And that is, right next to the clubhouse, or right in front of the clubhouse, or say the clubhouse is right behind the green, a little bit off to the left, and there's the cart area where people drop their cars. So there's a lot of activity back there. And possibly, I would say, those guys, the guy who hit down on us didn't see us, because we would have been sort of in the same area as people walking next to the clubhouse. And, we might have been a little bit bigger, but we certainly would have been in front of them, but we certainly could have looked like we were back at the clubhouse. Let's put it that way. So there's a lot of distractions. It's one of the few courses that I know that are like that. I tend not to like that kind of layout where the 18th green is right next to the clubhouse, or the 9th green is right next to the clubhouse, because it does have a lot of distractions, and there is a good chance that you could hit the ball long and shell somebody back there. And this is one of those courses that has something like that. The wonderful thing about Woodlands is the 9th, 10th, and 11th green are well back in the woods. Okay, nowhere near the clubhouse. The first hole, the first tee box is next to the parking lot, but that's still way away from the clubhouse. And it's just a much calmer course than Diamond Ridge. Diamond Ridge is what certainly that day was a very busy course. Okay, I still don't think it was so busy that you don't let people pass, but near the clubhouse there was a lot of activity. So that's one thing to keep in mind. What else do I normally say? Well, it's the same clubhouse as Woodlands. So like Woodlands, there's a couple of showers, a couple shower stalls, which is convenient. A small changing room in the bathroom, which is still convenient to have. It's nice to have a place that you can go change without going into the stalls and dealing with the stall detritus, let's put it that way, and trying to change in there, or not even having stalls that are big enough to change in, and you're changing in the main, area in front of the wash bins and stuff. I think a golf course is shorting its players if they don't even offer them changing area, much less showers. Okay, I don't like personally going out and walking around in the woods and stuff and picking up ticks and getting all hot and sweaty and stinky and stuff, and then coming back and getting in my car and driving home. If there I'm going to take a shower or whatever. I don't want to bring all that crap in my house to just because the course that I'm playing at is too cheap to have decent changing facilities, shower facilities. So I like to give a course a good rating for that. Okay. There's a lot to like about this course. Unfortunately, that's one reason why it's so busy. Unfortunately, okay? I can say there's very little to complain about this course. Unfortunately, that's one reason why it is, or at least it was that day, very busy, okay? But, again, I don't think it makes sense to stack players who are going to play faster behind slower players who are going to play slower, just because there's a stack of slow players in front of them. That's counter-rational, okay? It may not be counterintuitive, but it's certainly counter-rational. And I definitely have to fault the management of this course for being a little bit lazy and just not professional, okay, in a few ways. They know they've got a busy course. They know people are going to come out there and play it, and in a lot of ways, they're laissez-faire, okay? They get you out there in the course. They take your money. They get you at the course. They give you a cart, and they put you in the course, okay? But you still have to manage the course properly to make it work well. And I really have to fault the course management for not following through when they needed to. It's like one of those things. Not doing your job right really becomes a problem when it needs to be done right. Okay? And that's what happened here, I think. I think it's a good course, but you're going to have to deal with some borderline incompetent management, both in terms of keeping the course maintained and in terms of managing the players. So I'm going to give this course a B. I don't think it's a good enough course to be better than a B. And I don't think it really is managed very well. You can see it in a couple of ways, okay? But it is a solid enough course where I am going to say I'm not going to crush the score because some of the players are assholes and because some parts of the fairways are not in good condition. And there's a lot of fairways like that. I'd say about half the fairways have some serious issues, but not so much to keep from enjoying the course. This is a course where you're going to need a little bit of patience, and you're going to need to take some warm-up swings from now and time and then to keep yourself warm. But it's still a decent enough course where I think it deserves to be overall. So even though I had somewhat of a rough time, I do tend to get a little bit impatient and things like that when I'm playing, and and there are issues and so forth. I think the average player, the average person would enjoy playing this course, and you just have to deal with the fact that it's a very busy course. That's one of the problems. I'm going to tell you. It's cheaper than the Woodlands. I was able to get on at $12.15 for $30 on Friday. Normally, courses tend to charge somewhat of a premium on Friday than they do during the week. but I had some things going during the week where I couldn't take time off to go play golf earlier in the week, so I had to play it on Friday. It was busy as crap, but the rates weren't that bad, and the food was pretty decent, and the service definitely there is decent. They have a nice big deck and stuff that you can sit on and watch people either at the driving range or on the putting green or whatever. It's a really nice looking place. It's a really decent place. The only problem I have with this course is that, unfortunately, like just about any decent place, it does get its share of assholes, and they can ruin your round if you let it. Okay? But if you're cool enough and calm enough, it'll be fine. Take the course with a grain of salt, okay, and enjoy the round. That's Diamond Ridge. I rated a B. Diamond Ridge Golf Course in Walker's Mill, Maryland, which is really it's just southwest of Owings Mill. If you come off 795 and go west and go down Old Court Road, it's down there. It's a nice course, decent location. I am going to chop off the 10% I had problems with and just talk about the 90% that I enjoyed. Decent round.